We're in the chapel of San Venanzio in the Baptistery around the back of St. John Lateran in Rome. And we're here to look at mosaics that were installed in the 7th century.
And we're in a very important place in terms of the history of Christianity here in Rome. The church that this baptistry is associated with, St. John Lateran, built by Constantine in his effort to support Christian worship here in Rome and across the empire. It's Constantine whose Edict of Milan allows for freedom of worship for Christians in the empire, and he begins by building churches here in Rome, including St. Peter's Basilica and also St. John Lateran, which becomes the residence of the popes.
The brilliance of the mosaic, the reflectivity of the mosaic, is unlike anything else in its ability to create a sense of the celestial, to create a sense of the heavenly.
So many churches built during these centuries include many of the figures that we're seeing here. So at the top, we see Christ in the heavens, just a bust of Christ with a halo. On either side of him, angels.
And these fantastic multicolored clouds, and Christ making a gesture of blessing. And then directly below Christ, and beautifully aligned, is a standing representation of the Virgin Mary in royal purple, with her hands outstretched in prayer, a traditional pose known as the Orant pose that we see even in the early Christian catacombs of Rome.
And on either side of Mary, we see Saints Peter and Paul. This is also typical iconography. Two important saints who were especially associated with Rome, their martyrdom taking place here.
And then we have John the Evangelist and John the Baptist on either side of Peter and Paul, among other saints. And to either side of the evangelists, the cities of Bethlehem and Jerusalem.
And the other thing that we find that's typical of these mosaics are images of saints. We see them here on either side of the apse carrying books and crowns. And these saints are important because their relics are here in the altar in this chapel. So we have this sense of a continuous Christian community from Christ through Peter and Paul. Peter understood as the first pope, the first bishop of Rome, and then through the martyrs who died for their faith in Christ, especially during the time of Diocletian, during the time of the persecutions of Christians, their relics being here. So this continuous Christian tradition.
When this mosaic was made, we see figures without halos who are likely the popes that began the commission and completed this commission, so that there is this continuity in time from the period of the scriptures to the present, this collapsing of time, this unity of time.
We also typically see an inscription in these mosaics. In many cases, the inscriptions mention specifically the medium of the mosaic and the light of God. In this case, the inscription says, John, consecrated bishop by God, has paid his pious vows to the martyrs of Christ the Lord, and using metal that gleams like that of the holy font, he has now with foresight joined this work to the font to the end, that any stepping here and prostrate, adoring Christ, may also gain the prayers he has poured forth to heaven above.
So the idea of the glittering gold, this metal, is akin to the light of heaven and helps those who enter this chapel as worshipers to come into contact with the divine.
Through the relics of the martyrs who are represented here on the wall, through the Pope, the leader of the church, going back to Saints Peter and Paul, who are here on either side of the Virgin Mary to help intercede on behalf of mankind, and above Christ in heaven with angels.